Morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome everyone to Change Management with the Professor Adrian. This morning we're going to be talking about the change management process. I hope that this conversation be as enlightening as it was in preparing for you. Let's see. Put my phones so I can receive you well. Excuse me as I put the phones. We all know that change is a very difficult process to navigate, and oftentimes we're ill equipped, not because we don't have information, but sometimes we don't have the application of the information necessary to see the transition or transformation that would tell us that we're on the right path. However, we brought a series of resources to you that can help you move from where you are to where you need to be. Before going any further, I'll tell you a bit about myself. I've been an executive coach, trained with New Insights Life Coaching in the UK. I've been coaching for more than 2 decades, both corporate and individuals. I believe that we can move our world forward if we can put our skills out there and impact our world in a positive way. My form of coaching, we blend psychotherapy, counseling, neuro-linguistic programming, as well as cognitive behavioral therapy. We see Dahlia Brown has joined us, Alim has joined us, Evie has joined us. Thank you so very much. I am Professor Dr. Adrian. We see Tycoon has joined us as well. Wherever you're joining us from, please leave us a message letting us know where you're joining us from, which part of the world you are. Louis, thanks for joining us. Caroline, thanks for joining us. This morning we're talking about managing change in your life and also in your career. We'll be going a bit deeper today than we have done in all of our previous episodes. This is the beginning of our change management deep dive series. We also see Alfred has joined us as well. Thanks for joining us. Please let us know where you're joining us from. This morning we're talking about managing change in your life and in your career. I believe that we can impact our world in a positive way if we can use our skills in a format that people can both receive and understand. Now, as discussed before in our last segment, change is a constant dynamic force in both your life and your career. It impacts individuals both in their personal and professional lives. We see Cher has joined us, Sylvester has joined us. Thank you guys for joining us. Let us know in the comments where you're joining us from. Change has 3 specific impacts. First of all, change produces personal growth and development. Second of all, change produces challenges and it causes us to adapt to these changes. Leslie has joined us, Heal have joined us as well. So change also, and through that process of presenting challenges, we learn new skills, we acquire knowledge, and we also foster personal and professional improvement. The objective of life, as well as Gregory has joined us, the objective of life, this lesson school called Earth, is to prepare us to be able to adapt in difficult circumstances, to become better, stronger, more resilient people. And so in order for us to maximize change, we have to learn the skill of adaptation. And adaptation is really just the ability to change through seasons, become better, to build crucial life skills that can move you forward. It enables individuals as well to overcome some challenges, also setbacks, see new opportunities. Most of the time, we don't see new opportunities because we're looking through old eyes. We're looking through the eyes of what we've gone through in the past. We're looking through the eyes of what we imagine rather than what really is. And that's why you have to build your mental capacity. Throughout my life and career as a coach, one of the things that really stood out to me in interviewing executives and leaders from around the world is that they talk a lot about resilience. And resilience really is that skill of dealing with challenges in such a way that you always find a way to come back from setbacks. We see Desiree has joined us, or Mario has joined us, Dariette has joined us. Thank you for joining us. Please let us know where you're joining us from. And so because that is the case, what you have to do is that you have to first and foremost begin to think about what makes a person or persons, groups, organizations, companies resilient. What makes a person define you as resilient? What causes you to be seen as a resilient individual in our world? There's few things that cause us to be seen as resilient. First of all, the act of getting up. What is getting up? Getting up is the attitude of the mind that says no matter what happens to me, I will not be defined by it. I will not be defined by the setbacks. I will not be defined by the hiccups. I will not be defined by the amount of time that it took me to get to where I am. But rather than feel a sense of regret, you start to celebrate. You celebrate those moments in the past where things didn't quite go the way you would like. Change also impacts on our goal achievement. How? Well, if you have a goal is always in front of you. It is always further than you can imagine. It is always further than where you've been. It's always further than the depth of knowledge or information you have about a situation. And so in order for you to really achieve a goal, you have to change. Change and goal achievement go together, because change often involves setting high achievable goals. It makes no sense setting goals that you've accomplished before. There are no goals. Goals are something, an objective that you reach towards. All right? Gloria Estefan has one of my favorite songs called Reach. And it was one of the songs that kind of defined a season of my journey, because it was the song that I played a lot when I was in places that were really, really, fraught with challenges and obstacles. And, it really talks about dreaming bigger than the dream that is than around you. And most people that I have interviewed have said to me, Professor, I believe that if I hadn't held onto my individual vision, that dream that I had inside of me, I would not have accomplished a lot of the things that I did in my life. And we're not just talking about material possessions, because that's just one form of accomplishment. There is also good relationships with family members. That is an accomplishment. There's a good relationship with the Creator. That is also an accomplishment. There is a good relationship with yourself, where you can be in your own company and not feel as though you need to run away. Okay? I see. Sorry, you're going to have to send that invite once again. It went too quickly. And so personal growth and life transitions can change and cause you to strengthen your resolve. Your resolve for a goal that you really want. Your resolve for something that you really would like to have in your repertoire. When people think about change, they always think about change because of something negative that has happened. But you can also change out of a positive experience as well. Um, how we see the world is how we define the world. It isn't always how the world really is. That's why it's important to self-reflect. When you self-reflect, you can look at yourself through the eyes of a different person. Be a fly on the wall and observe yourself. One of the things that I do a lot is self-observation, because if I did something right, I should be able to go back and look at the steps that I took to get there. If I did something wrong, I should also be able to go back and look at the steps that I took, or the missteps that I took. That's why it's called a mistake. You know, many people allow mistakes to define their lives. You made mistakes in the past and you allow that to become your reality. Your mistakes don't have to be your future. You can always start today to change tomorrow. You can't go back and undo the hurt or whatever has happened, but you can go back. But you can go back in your mind, heal yourself, ask for forgiveness, and move forward. You really only have the future and now, and the future is not set. All right, the future is not set, and really think about it, especially when it comes to time and understanding time dimensions. You realize that there's a lot of things that we don't fully understand about the goals that we set and how change comes into our lives through the form of tragedy. And that's the next step, because oftentimes when tragedy comes, we have this myopic view. Why is this happening to me? You know, why now? Why not 10 years ago? You know, why did I have to go through, being fired? Why do I have to deal with a wayward child? Or why did I have to get divorced? Or, why did I have to get sick? All of these things truly start defining us. Jordan Hilton, thanks for joining us. Charles, thanks for joining us. DJ King, thanks for joining us as well. We see a lot more persons as well. We have Chris White, Fidelity, Maxim joined us as well. Please let us know where you're joining us from. This morning we're talking about change management strategies, moving you from where you are to where you need to be in our change management series. I'm a certified New Insights Life coach and also a humanitarian, a professor of coaching and professional development at the GEPEA for the Satellite College campus. Now, what is the significance of change in professional life? This is a very important question, because unfortunately, because we're so our world is so capitalistic in its view. People ask me about change a lot in their company. They ask about change in the application of groups, but they never really seem to want to look at change for themselves individually. And this is because the rewards that we get from companies and organizations are tangible. They're tangible. You get a salary, you get a raise. All of those are tangible things that you can bet on. Unfortunately, in change happens first inside. So in order for you to really see what you really want and become that larger than life figure that you imagine or visualize, you're going to have to put yourself in a place where you become innovative. What is innovation? Innovation is really taking an old idea and looking at it from a different perspective and coming up with a new solution for an old problem. If you think about it like that, you'd realize that there are very few inventions. Because we hear people talk about, this was invented or that was invented. There's a difference between invention and creation, right? We invent things because I always improve on something that has already been in existence. The mobile that we have, the iPhone or the Motorola, or the Samsung Ericsson, these are all upgrades of the old telephone that we use the dial. And if you go way back, you will see that every invention is really just an evolutionary process forward. And everything that we have has only been happening in the last 50 years, 50 to 100 years, really. So all of these new fantastic things like photovoltaic technology, solar technology, All of these things came into our lives within the last 100 years. So when people talk about inventions and they talk about creative concepts, you would find that change really happens when you're willing to think differently, when you're willing to act differently, when you're willing to move differently, and and that comes to the space that you occupy, call your motivation. Innovation and change is really a driving force behind innovation and progress. So when people talk about I want to progress, it means that you have to take different steps that you've taken in the past. It means that you have to be committed in a way that you weren't before. You know, my life changed both personally and professionally when I got committed. Sometimes we think we're committed because we're having actions in our lives, but movement doesn't necessarily point to growth, because you can be moving in the same place. And I heard someone say that once. Innovation also encourages businesses and organizations to adapt to improve products and services like we just mentioned earlier. So it isn't only applicable to my personal life. We see Patrick Bevy has joined us, English has joined us as well. We're talking about change management strategies. You can ask your questions, leave your comments, tell us where you're joining us from. Change also presents in career advancement. In a professional context, change can create opportunities for career advancement. Why? Because being open to change and acquiring new skills can lead to promotions, increased job satisfaction, organizational success, which reflects back on yourself and the impact that you've had on your team. It can also, organizations who go through transitional changes can respond to market shifts, customer needs, and also emerging trends in the world. As a change viewer, in my capacity as a coach, one of the things that I look at a lot is change and productivity. We want to be productive, but sometimes we don't want to change our strategies to produce. If you look back through the annals of history, you'll see that many of the inventions that we have today happened because someone was willing to go on the fence. Someone was willing to think of a problem in a way that may not have been thought about before. And, because of our speed technology and our speed society, defined by a digital age, where speed defines accuracy, where in the past, accuracy actually defined productivity. We have a watered down concept of information. We have a watered down concept of application of information, which is wisdom. And people go after knowledge and information rather than wisdom, because you can have all the information in the world, you have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't know how to apply that knowledge to change or to make things better, then you're still going to be in the same place. So change can also lead to process improved output. It can also increase your efficacy and efficiency as a leader. So change isn't just about getting better. Change is about getting better through time, because you need time to look back, reflect on the information that you've had before. You need time to, after looking back at that information, asking yourselves, why did it work or why didn't it work? And how can I make it better? Those are the questions. I stay up most nights thinking about that. I've given a talk. How can I make that talk better for the next conference? How can I make myself better, for the next project that I have? And also, change makes us realize that learning development is very important. So continuous learning and professional development are really essential. They're essential for your personal and professional growth. Never look down on a course or an opportunity to learn something new. Embrace change, because change often involves acquiring new skills and new information. It's always that space that you have between receiving the information and understanding the information to action that keeps us stuck, because you're at that place where you know you need to change. You have this new body of information, but how do you apply it? And that's where experience comes in. Find persons who are around you, who emulate some of those qualities that you would like, to emulate in your life. Also understand that, the same way that companies and organizations have to adapt to market conditions and changing demographics or changing demands, we as individual professionals also have to do so as well. So it might mean that, you have to do something that you're not comfortable with. It might mean that you might have to do an admin course, or you might have to work in an admin post, or you might have to, there are people around us who know a lot, and we don't spend enough time around them to learn, and again, that's really because of our speed generation. In both personal and professional contexts, the ability to manage and navigate change effectively is a very valuable skill for all of us. It really is. Because while change can be challenging and uncomfortable, might I add, it also presents opportunities for growth, improvement, and new experiences. If you are, I see good morning, Mike. Thanks for joining us. We're talking about change management. If you can join us, it would be great. You're always very welcome here. This morning, we're talking about change management series today, going live and sharing on change. Now, we need to also recognize, good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Adrian. Great to see you. How are you?
It's good to. I'm doing well, man. I'm very happy. Technology's back up and we're good to go.
Hey, that's perfect. It looks great. It sounds great. I'm so pleased.
I know you're a busy man, so feel free.
I have to go. I pulled over. I'm in a car park. I'll need to go, but I just wanted to see. It looks fantastic, Adrian. So
okay, cheers, man.
Lovely
no
to see
worries,
you.
Man. Cheers, man. Bye bye.
Thank you. Speak to you soon.
All right.
Bye bye.
You're welcome. All right.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, we return to our regular schedule. Now, let's look at recognizing the different types of change, because this is a question that in the last segment interview, Mike had actually asked me. And if you don't know, that is Mike McLaughlin. You can follow him on Instagram as well as on TikTok. He has some great content, and he really delves into that psychological material, kind of help you deal with some issues that might present both in society as well as individually. So recognizing the different types of change is very important, because it takes many forms. It can be classified into many different types. So for example, there is developmental change. Developmental change, we're all familiar with developmental change because we were children once. We were babies, then we were toddlers, infants, we went through preschool, then we went to primary school, then secondary school, on to college, university, etc., into the world. Some of us have retired, and all of those are different developmental change places. This type of change, developmental change, is gradual and incremental, because it often involves improvements or advancements in existing processes. For example, when you're a child, you drink milk, and so you use gums. All right. Notice the input that you need to sustain yourself also changes as the tools, your mouth, your teeth, dentures, etc., change. And the same thing happens in existing processes, for example, systems and products, because we talked a lot about the cell phone earlier. But what about the pencil? What about the computer? What about the things that we become so familiar with the printer, the Xerox machine. All of these are things that also point to a period in the past where these things were dominant. It also tells us that because change is incremental and developmental, we have to change with change. You have to change, go through the change process. I see we've got some diamonds. Nish joined us, Lenora joined us, Jackie joined us, Nadia, Jurek joined us, Annie and Alton joined us. Thank you guys for joining us. We're talking about change. We're looking now at the developmental process or part of change. Developmental change aims to enhance efficiency and effectiveness. Now there's also transformational change. Transformational change is a more deep and disruptive change. I call it disruptive change because a plant goes through a transformation from a plant to, from a seed to germinating, to becoming a plant, to becoming a tree. That's what change is like. Society teaches us that change is necessary, but yet society promotes sameness, same groups, same ideas, same thoughts, because it brings security. Society breaks down when there is no security in society, when information breaks down or the lack of trust in information. Now, transformation is more profound because it is that kind of change that causes you to have to move away from what you know, move away from what you use, your tools, what you know, your information, and move away from who you know, your society. Many people who are lauded as great minds of the past today were once thought of as crazy because when they introduced the idea, they were way ahead of their time. A lot of the ideas that I introduced was 12 years ago. Many people didn't receive those ideas, but now we're seeing life coaches springing up. We have executive coaches all around the world. You know, as a professor of coaching and professional development in our curriculum development, one of the things we look at in the GEPA is how actually that change comes and how that change can be measured. Because, you know, sometimes we talk about change, but we don't measure the impact that our change has had on the things around us as well. You can look at a family and see when a man or a woman has changed. You can look at a company and see when strategies has changed. You can look at a product and see when processes have changed. All right? And so that type of change is typically driven by a need for innovation, adapting to significant shifts or external environments. That also brings us to organizational change. We talked a lot about product changes, but organizational change refers to changes within a company or institution. It can include structural changes such as reorganizing, mergers, acquisitions, as well as changes in the company structure, culture. Company culture is important because as you bring different people into an environment of a team called an organization, they bring their culture from the companies they work with as well. And that impacts the existing culture. So there's always an interplay of cultural identity shifting within the context of an organization as well. And then there's personal change. Personal change is one of my favorites because it pertains to changes that individuals undergo in their lives. And it is really something that is initiated by the individual. It isn't a company, it isn't an organization, it isn't a family, it's an individual thing. And that's why spiritual change is the most important change because it deals with the mind. When people think about spirituality, they think about something out there. But spirituality is breath and mind. That's what spirituality really is. It's important because it ties into the words that you use, it ties into the concepts that you use, the things that you believe. And then there's cultural change. Cultural change is also one of the things that I like to think about because it involves shifts from shared beliefs, values or norms or behaviors. When I was in Brazil, for example, I had a completely different cultural shift with music, a complete cultural shift with drinking wine. A complete different shift happened to me when I was working on a ship in Greece because the culture is very very resilient, very strong. The way they speak, the way they project themselves, and others, the language as well. And so, wherever you are in your life, always know that there's always an opportunity for change, and never believe that you are a lost cause. You are not a lost cause, because the truth is that as long as you have breath in you, you can change. As long as you have an opportunity, you can change. As long as you have new information, you can change. As long as you have new spaces, you can change. And that is why technological change not only talks about advancements in terms of technology, but also advancements in terms of technological thinking. Because in technology, you also have to have a new body of information that technocrats use to transform our world, transform the way we communicate. Technology has transformed the way we communicate. It has transformed the way we travel. It has transformed the way we see and interact with our world. We have virtual reality now. When you put on a virtual reality goggles, for example, you're entering into a digital space where you see people who are there but not there. It's like quantum technology. And then there's environmental change. Environmental change is what we're undergoing right now with the climate shifting, through the change cycles that the world goes through every few thousand years. And so it doesn't matter where you are on that round, whether you're professional development, individual, personal development, individual, whether you want to transition from a life that you've built and become comfortable, or you want to do something that you've never done before, whatever it is that you've done. Tracy Phillips, thanks for joining us. Donna Clark, thanks for joining us as well. We're talking about change management strategies, moving you from where you are to where you need to be in this new series. We've covered environmental, developmental, personal change. We will also think about policy changes. For example, our country became a republic. After becoming a republic, they've had to go back and look at lots of policy reforms. Policy reforms in the way Barbadians are, the way their money is processed. We moved to a digital space, for example, where money is now, where all of our documents is now digitized. So there's transition happening everywhere. Policies had to change when COVID happened. When COVID happened, it meant that medical policies had to change. The way they did insurance had to change as well. So whatever you go through, wherever you are, just remember this: change is constant. And if you really want to maximize your potential, you will change. I am Professor Dr. Adrian Daisley, Certified New Insights Life Coach and Professor of Coaching and Professional Development with GEPEA University. Thank you so very much. See you guys soon. Cheers.